When I finally learned to play the piano for him, he told me he had fallen for a new colleague in my dance troupe. For 12 years I had chased after him, believing that if I transformed myself into the person he desired, he would finally accept me. Julian Sterling said he liked girls who could play the piano. I knew his first love from university played the piano. Not long before, she had moved abroad with her family. Meanwhile, I had studied ballet since elementary school, and was the prima ballerina of our troupe. Determined to become the kind of girl he liked, I threw myself into learning the piano, practicing relentlessly alongside my ballet training. When Julian found out, he offered just 2 words. Good luck. Though he didn't say it outright, in my heart, I interpreted this as him finally giving me a chance. I believed that if I successfully transformed into the person he found attractive, he would open his heart to me. I posted anonymously online, asking for advice. Almost every response confirmed my hopeful interpretation. Some encouraged me, assuring me that my persistence would eventually pay off, and I would finally see the light after the storm. Others advised me to give up, but my eyes and mind automatically filtered out anything that didn't align with my desired outcome. After I won first place in my very first piano competition, Julian actually offered to host a celebration party for me. I was overjoyed, believing my decade-long dream was finally within reach. Little did I know he was about to deliver a crushing blow. At the height of my hopeful anticipation, he told me he had fallen for a new member of my dance troupe and asked for my help in creating an opportunity for him to meet her. This party, ostensibly in my honor, was merely a pretext, his chance to connect with my new colleague. When he made this request, he spoke not with a hint of consideration for my feelings, nor any trace of a plea or apology. It was as if helping him pursue someone else was simply my obligation, a matter of course. I could barely believe what I was hearing. A deep, pervasive sense of desolation washed over me, chilling me to my very core. We had known each other since childhood. I had loved him for 12 years. This was the first time he had taken a significant interest in something involving me, and it wasn't about me at all. The new member of our dance troupe had a beautiful name, Lila Ashton. She was strikingly pretty, with a graceful figure, definitely campus beauty material. Then, again, how many girls who dance aren't lovely? I was the prima ballerina. Since middle school, classmates had privately nicknamed me the campus beauty too. The night before the party, Julian called me. His voice, usually so cool and detached, was tinged with eagerness and anxiety. He wanted to confirm that Lila would attend the party. It was a voice I knew so well, yet it sounded utterly foreign coming from him, directed at this purpose. It struck me then how easily a campus beauty could be turned into a bitter joke. The party venue was strategically chosen, just a 10-minute walk from Lila's apartment. I had discreetly gotten her address for Julian. He had chosen the location. At the party, Julian made a beeline for Lila. It was the first time I had ever seen that typically indifferent man speak to a girl with such warmth in his eyes, showering her with concerned questions and charming smiles. He had only met her once before, briefly. That day, I had carelessly left my dance shoes at home, and my mother had prevailed upon him to bring them to me. He had seen Lila then, just a fleeting glimpse from the doorway of the studio. I could have simply borrowed a pair from the troupe spares, but some perverse impulse made me want him to do something, anything, for me for once. For years it had always been me running errands for him, waiting for him, even willingly squeezing onto crowded subway trains in pouring rain just to do him a favor. But standing there watching him, I regretted it. I shouldn't have asked him to bring my shoes. Pulling myself back from my bitter memories, I noticed that when Lila smiled, she bore a striking resemblance to his university ex, Clara. Painful realization dawned on me. Clara had moved abroad, and I had foolishly believed that if I transformed myself, learned piano, I would have a chance. Instead, someone who merely resembled her had effortlessly captured all his attention. He would rather choose someone who looked somewhat like his past love than acknowledge 12 years of my unwavering affection. The girl next door couldn't compete with the destined encounter. What was I to him, truly? Perhaps in his eyes I wasn't even worthy of being a backup option. At best, I was just someone he had known since childhood. A familiar, unregarded presence. My body stiffened. I turned my head away, unable to watch them any longer, afraid I would break down crying. For me, the celebration supposedly in my honor felt like an unending torment. Every minute a painful ordeal. When the party finally ended, I was emotionally drained. Julian and Lila graciously helped me see off all the guests. Finally, I watched them leave together. Julian claiming it was on his way to take Lila home. And I forced myself to take the subway home alone, the weight of my disappointment heavy on my shoulders. One day, I was getting ready backstage for a performance. Maya, a colleague I was close to, approached me, a mischievous smile on her face. "Guess who I just saw coming backstage? You know they don't usually let outsiders in. The manager only let him through because of you." Hearing this, the others in the dressing room teased me, smiling knowingly. The entire troupe knew about my childhood connection to Julian and my long-standing feelings for him. I was certain Maya was talking about him, but Julian had never been backstage before. Or rather, he had never chosen to come find me. When I saw a subtle, knowing smile flicker across Lila's face, I immediately guessed the real reason for his presence. I knew I shouldn't hope, but a tiny, persistent spark of anticipation flickered within me nonetheless. I always fantasized that one day he would turn around and truly see me. No, he had always seen me. He had simply chosen to ignore me. Julian walked into the dressing room, his steps taking him directly to Lila. The smile on his face directed at her was warm and utterly captivating. I felt an icy dread seep into my bones, a bone-deep chill that made it impossible to continue my self-deception. Lila hooked her arm through Julian's, her eyes bright with happiness. Facing the surprised stares of my colleagues, she turned to me and said, "Elara, Julian and I are together now. And I have you to thank for creating the opportunity, Elara." My hand paused mid-air, applying makeup. I forced it to continue, maintaining a nonchalant tone. "That's great. Congratulations to you both. It's my first time on stage today, and he insisted on coming to see me perform," Lila said, her eyes crinkling at the corners, radiating the sweet glow of new love. I had lost count of how many performance tickets I had offered Julian over the years, hoping he would come see me dance. He had always declined with a cool indifference, claiming he had no time. I forced my eyes wide open, determined not to let the tears fall, and offered her a strained smile. "Well, you'll have to perform beautifully then." "Thanks, Elara, I'll do my best." She lifted an eyebrow slightly, and in that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling of a subtle challenge in her gaze. Was I just imagining it? Julian looked at her, his voice soft with affection. "You have to believe in yourself. You're the best." His eyes and smile were filled with tenderness and doting admiration. Watching them, so openly affectionate, and then looking at my own lonely, crestfallen reflection in the mirror, the light in my eyes slowly faded. Profound sense of loss and bitterness welled up inside me, almost spilling over. I took a deep breath, trying to muster my resolve, and headed to the wings, preparing for my performance. I told myself that no matter who he was here for, I had to dance my best, because he would be watching. Outside the theater, Julian congratulated Lila on her successful performance. In that production I was the lead dancer, and she was one of many in the corps de ballet. For years, even when I stood alone in the spotlight at the very center of the stage, he had never offered me a single word of praise. But now, standing right in front of me, he couldn't find enough effusive words to lavish upon her. When he looked at her, his gaze was focused, intense, and utterly captivated. When he turned his eyes to me, his expression instantly turned cold, even severe. That look felt like a knife twisting in my chest. My breath hitched. In that moment I finally understood. He wasn't just rejecting me, he was warning me. Warning me not to be foolish, not to try and interfere with their relationship. It didn't matter that I was the prima ballerina, that I had learned to play the piano. He would never love me. I wanted to ask him then, desperately, what kind of person he saw me as. Did he even remember that we had grown up together? "Excuse me." A clear, bright voice cut through the increasingly awkward tension between the three of us. We all turned to look. A young man stood there, looking cheerful and approachable. He was looking directly at me, little nervous but determined. "Elara," he said, "I'm a big fan of your dancing. Your solo today was absolutely breathtaking. The most beautiful dance I've ever seen. Could I become your friend? Being approached by fans was not new to me. I always politely declined. But at this moment, I wanted to do something different. By become your friend, do you mean you're hoping to ask me out? I asked, a casual note in my voice, though I didn't feel casual at all. He looked at me, and his gaze became focused, intense, and utterly captivated, just like Julian's had been on Lila moments before. Could I? He asked seriously, his eyes filled with a nervous anticipation. That was how I used to look at Julian countless times. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Julian. Was I imagining it, or was his face pale, his expression tight with anger? I found myself wanting to laugh. Was it him who had given me false hope? Or was I truly foolishly misunderstanding everything again? What reason did he have to be angry? Thinking back, it seemed similar things had happened throughout the years. Since middle school, boys would occasionally confess their feelings for me. Julian would always seriously remind me, "You can't date yet." Whenever I got close to other boys, he would become visibly annoyed and somehow manage to chase away every boy who approached me. Over time, I convinced myself that he liked me too, that we had a mutual unspoken affection, a reciprocal journey towards each other. It wasn't until I entered university and confessed my feelings to him that he told me he had a girlfriend. Only then did I realize it had all been my own wishful thinking, a complete misunderstanding. But were they all just misunderstandings? If he simply saw me as a normal classmate or friend, why would he drive away every boy who came near me? "My name is Caleb Carter," the young man said, pulling me back from my painful memories. "I would like to pursue you. Is that all right?" I looked at Julian. His gaze was heavy, fixed on me, making me momentarily dizzy with confusion. Again, he made me feel like he cared, that he was interested, making me waver in my disappointment, pulling me deeper into the abyss of despair. Then Lila suddenly linked her arm through Julian's, swaying it playfully, her voice full of intimate affection. Julian's expression immediately softened. He looked down at her, smiling gently, his eyes filled with tenderness. In that instant, I truly understood. There was nothing left to hope for. No matter how long I loved him, no matter how much I changed myself for him, he would never love me, not even a tiny bit. Perhaps it was because I had been disappointed so many times, but I didn't feel sad or resentful. Instead, I felt a strange sense of peace, almost relief. Caleb was still looking at me intently, waiting for my answer. "We can get to know each other first," I said. Giving him a chance was also giving myself a chance. He seemed to take a moment to process my words. Then his face lit up with sheer joy and disbelief. "I'm not dreaming, am I?" he asked, looking slightly goofy. I couldn't help but smile. Caleb gazed at me, his eyes filled with what seemed like a galaxy of stars. "You're even more beautiful when you smile," he said. "You're even prettier in person than on the poster." All right. I was the prima ballerina. There were posters of me in the theater lobby and near the ticket booths. Perhaps I had been so focused on being humble and chasing Julian that I had forgotten, even momentarily, my own worth, my own brilliance. "Want to exchange contact information?" I asked. "Yes." He nodded vigorously, pulling out his phone, his hand trembling slightly. He was radiating a goofy, excited energy. I couldn't help but think, perhaps this decision wasn't so bad after all. From that day on, Caleb texted me every day. Sometimes he asked if I was tired from dancing, sometimes he shared funny stories or embarrassing moments from his day. Gradually, whenever I picked up my phone, my fingers automatically went to our chat, wanting to see what he had sent. Wherever I performed, his face would be in the audience. Before I went on stage, he would send me messages wishing me luck and cheering me on. After the show, he would greet me with endless compliments, telling me I was the best he had ever seen. He practically wanted to shout it through a loudspeaker. He was my #1 fan. Almost everyone in the troupe recognized him now. They all seemed to understand he was pursuing me. Caleb had a clean, genuine smile and a sweet way with words. He would always bring fruits or snacks to share with everyone in the troupe, and no one had a bad word to say about him. Especially Maya, who told me more than once, "Caleb is so much better for you than Julian." Sometimes I would finish a performance close to 11 at night. He would have worked all day and be exhausted, but he would still wait for me, insisting on seeing me home. If I told him not to drive, he would call a taxi just to make sure he saw me get inside my building before he left, completely at ease. This feeling of being carefully cherished was something I had never dared to imagine Julian ever offering me. Memories flashed through my mind. One time, Julian was working late, and I brought him a late-night meal and stayed with him until he finished. He offered to drop me off on his way home, but then halfway there he told me to get out and take a taxi the rest of the way. Because the last 7 or 8 minutes of the car ride, he explained, was no longer on his way. Even after I had stayed up late with him on a deserted street late at night, he hadn't been willing to spend just a little bit more time to make sure I got home safely. Today Caleb came to the theater again. The manager, buttered up by gifts, gave him special permission to come backstage. What surprised me was that Julian was also there. This was only his second time ever coming backstage. Caleb shared cream puffs with everyone, then brought a special box to me, holding it out like a precious offering. "Yours is different," he whispered, a mysterious smile on his face. "Your favorite strawberry cream puffs." I smiled softly, reaching for a puff from the box. Before I could, he took one and brought it to my lips. I paused, startled, suddenly aware that everyone's eyes seemed to be on us. Julian's face was etched with a disbelieving fury he struggled to conceal. Caleb watched me, expectant and nervous. As the light in his eyes began to dim slightly, I opened my mouth and took a bite. In that instant his eyes seemed to erupt with fireworks, brilliant and dazzling. I smiled back, genuinely touched. The cream puff was sweet, but the warmth and affection he offered me were infinitely sweeter. That night, Caleb drove me home as usual. As he lingered, holding my hand, reluctant to leave, he leaned in and softly kissed the corner of my mouth. He then pulled back, watching me nervously. If you could call it a kiss, it was our first. In that moment, a tension that had held me for years finally snapped. He had steadily woven himself into my work and life, making me accustomed to his kindness and attention. I realized I couldn't easily push him away anymore. I feigned composure. "See you tomorrow," I said. "Okay, see you tomorrow." He grinned, that goofy, happy grin returning. I couldn't help but let my smile deepen. "Drive safely." He nodded repeatedly, the stars in his eyes shining brighter than any stage light. I stood there watching him leave. Remembering the fleeting kiss, I touched the corner of my mouth and smiled softly. I believe that, in that moment, my eyes were also filled with starlight. What surprised me was that as I turned to go inside, I saw Julian standing in the shadows. His face was pale with anger, and my smile immediately faded. His expression darkened further, as if I were a woman who had strayed. The thought amused me despite the situation. We had known each other since we were children. I had chased him for 12 years, carefully offering my heart to him, only for him to shatter it countless times. He could watch me pour my heart out while dating other women, even pursue someone who resembled his ex, and refused to accept my feelings. But I couldn't move on and date someone else? After a long pause, Julian's voice was low and hoarse. "Are you two together?" "Yes." I looked at him calmly, my answer firm and decisive. "You've only known him for how long? Do you even know him?" He suddenly spoke sharply, anger flashing in his eyes. "But I just found it ironic." I reminded him. "When you got together with Lila, how long had you known her? Did you know her?" He froze for a moment, then seemed to come to a sudden misguided realization. "You're doing this deliberately, aren't you? You're trying to get back at me. Alara, don't degrade yourself." I could barely believe this was Julian, the Julian I thought I knew. I had never felt him so utterly foreign. Was I only allowed to like him, only allowed to chase after him? "You can't deny it, can you?" he pressed. I shook my head in disappointment, taking a deep breath. "I'm seeing Caleb because I feel comfortable and happy with him. His eyes are only on me, and I want to only look at him." Julian took a stunned step back, still looking at me with disbelief. He seemed unable to comprehend that I could possibly like someone else. Unwilling to prolong the confrontation, I said calmly, "I'm going upstairs. Text me if you need something." "Behind me," Julian said. Do you remember what day next Friday is? Paused, thinking hard. What day was next Friday? Was it important? Disappointment flickered across Julian's face. Next Friday is my birthday, he said. You'll come, right? It clicked. His birthday was coming up. Every year before, I had spent weeks meticulously preparing a gift for him. This year, if he hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten. That thought surprised even myself. You'll come, right? Julian repeated, adding, a few of our old classmates will be there too. They all want to see you. I hesitated. I did miss those old friends. After a long moment, I said, okay. Julian's birthday party was held at a quiet bar owned by one of his friends. Julian and I had attended the same schools from elementary through high school. Many of his friends were also my old friends and knew bits and pieces of our history. When Caleb and I arrived, several friends were already there. Someone greeted Caleb, and I learned that Caleb and Julian were from the same department at university. One of their university classmates looked at me with surprise, then playfully teased Caleb. You sly dog. You actually managed to land our goddess. Another classmate smiled at me. Alara, this guy Caleb has been smitten with you since he saw you in his first year. He couldn't stop thinking about you. Really? I looked at Caleb, smiling. Caleb's ears turned slightly red. In front of his university friends, he confessed, it's true. That year, my first year, I saw you standing alone downstairs from the dorms holding a thermos. The look on your face changed from expectation to disappointment, but you just stubbornly stood there waiting for someone. I watched you from a distance for as long as you stood there. He paused, his voice soft. That's when I thought, when did our university get such a wonderful girl? If someone doesn't cherish her, maybe I should be the one to love her. It wasn't until later, when I stumbled into the theater by chance, that I learned you were Ilara, the prima ballerina. No wonder you were so exceptional. My cheeks felt warm. I looked up at him. His eyes were bright and clear, looking at me with complete sincerity and focus. Their university classmates chuckled, seeing the scene unfold. He even used this chance to confess to our goddess. Caleb playfully retorted, I confess to her every day. I don't need you guys to give me an opportunity. My smile widened. It wasn't until I caught sight of Julian, his eyes red-rimmed, that my good mood faltered slightly. I leaned closer to Caleb. Caleb seemed to glance at Julian as well. Feeling me lean into him, he responded like a big dog receiving praise from its owner, burying his head in the crook of my neck and nuzzling me. I smiled resignedly, letting him. Julian walked towards us, his eyes still red, clearly suppressing intense anger. In an instant, everyone's attention shifted to our corner, and the room fell into an awkward silence. I looked up at Julian, feeling as though everything from the past belonged to a distant memory. Caleb held my hand and I felt his nervousness. I squeezed his fingers, lacing them with mine. I was certain now. I had truly let go of my feelings for Julian. Julian's eyes flared with cold fury. I saw his hands clenched tightly into fists by his sides. I said nothing, just looked at Julian with the same calm indifference he had shown me so many times before. I had let go of my 12 years of unspoken affection for him. Actually, it wasn't entirely unspoken. He knew I liked him. For years, I had been good to him without expecting anything in return, waiting humbly for him to finally look back at me. He knew about my feelings, about everything I did for him. So what was this expression now? My boyfriend was sitting next to me, and his girlfriend was right beside him. Bang! Lila slammed her glass down on the table, grabbed her handbag and strode out of the bar. Caleb scoffed lightly. Birthday boy, he chuckled. Your girlfriend left. Aren't you going to go after her? I leaned my head onto Caleb's shoulder. Caleb immediately shifted, making sure I was comfortable. A couple of friends half pulled, half coaxed Julian away to another part of the bar. Everyone seemed to have a silent understanding, not to mention the awkward situation between us and the bar. Slowly filled with noise and chatter again. One of my high school classmates quietly leaned in and said, Alara, you're finally not being foolish anymore. Julian Sterling isn't worthy of you. I smiled faintly, because I was lucky enough to meet the right person at the right time. Caleb had appeared at exactly the right moment. If he had come sooner, I would have turned him away, still waiting for Julian to turn around. If he had come later, perhaps I would have been too consumed by my own despair to ever emerge. The next day I came downstairs and saw Julian. He, who was always meticulously groomed, looked somewhat disheveled, his hair messy, his face unshaven. "Ilara," he said softly, my name a low murmur, laced with something that sounded like longing. I suddenly remembered. When his first love was about to move abroad and broke up with him, he had come to me looking exactly like this. At the time I had felt incredibly sorry for him and even angry. The person I cherished so deeply had been abandoned by another girl. Now I just felt a dull lack of interest. What was there to feel sorry for? Between us, wasn't I the one who deserved pity? If you have something to say it quickly. I'm in a hurry. I had plans with Caleb. He had cryptically told me he had a surprise planned. Julian looked at me with a wounded expression, as if accusing me of being heartless. Seeing his silence, I started to walk away. "Lila and I broke up," Julian said quickly. "Oh." I glanced at my watch, feeling a sense of urgency. "Ilara, I was wrong. I always thought that if I just turned around you would be there. I was wrong all these years, ignoring your feelings. I truly understand my mistake now. I can't lose you. Can you? Can you give me one more chance?" These were the words I had longed to hear, words I had never dared to wish for. Now they sounded utterly hollow and ironic. I had loved him for 12 years and he had dismissed my feelings, causing me disappointment and pain repeatedly. But now that I no longer loved him, he claimed he was wrong, that he couldn't live without me, asking for another chance. I said calmly, "I'm sorry. I already have a boyfriend. His feelings for me are as strong as anyone's." Julian seemed unwilling to accept it. "Ilara, we met first." Hearing that, I couldn't help but scoff slightly. Love doesn't follow a first-come, first-served rule. You taught me that lesson yourself. Seeing him fall silent, I added, "I'm in a hurry. We can talk another time." Caleb took me to a restaurant by a lake. I chuckled slightly. "A quiet, elegant setting? Is this your surprise?" Caleb was still being mysterious. "You eat first. I'll go get ready." I smiled. "All right." Soon piano music drifted through the air. Following the sound, I saw Caleb playing. It was a simple rendition of Fur Elise. He played hesitantly, stumbling over some notes, even hitting a few wrong ones. Yet it inexplicably brought tears to my eyes. I had learned piano for Julian. Now someone was playing the piano for me. I walked over, watching him intently. When he finished, he said nervously, "I guess I lack talent. I didn't play well." "It was beautiful," I said, my voice soft. "The most beautiful music I've ever heard." I smiled, sitting down beside him at the piano, placing my hands on the keys. But Caleb stopped me. "I want a different kind of return gift," he said. I looked at him, puzzled. "Dance for me?" he asked. "Okay." I didn't hesitate. I loved ballet. I practiced dancing every day. After dinner, we went to an open space by the lake. A gentle evening breeze stirred. I danced a section from Swan Lake, the scene where the white swan princess Odette meets the prince by the lake. It felt fitting for the moment. Caleb seemed incredibly moved. He rushed towards me, pulling me into a fierce hug. He whispered in my ear, "Ilara, I'm so happy." I wrapped my arms around him, hugging him back. "Me too." After a long moment, Caleb released me, his eyes overflowing with excitement and joy. "Yesterday at the party, I heard you've never danced a solo for anyone before, especially Swan Lake. You rarely dance that piece unless it's for a performance. Ilara, that means I'm special to you, right?" A soft smile touched my lips. "You're not just special," I said, tilting my head. "You're my boyfriend." "I'm so happy," he repeated. "My Princess Odette." "You know Odette? You've done your homework." Caleb beamed with pride. "I'm your #1 fan. How could I not know about Odette?" My smile deepened. Since being with him, my friends had told me I had become more cheerful, smiling more often. Just as I had told Julian, I felt comfortable and happy with Caleb. My first ballet teacher had once mentioned she danced a solo Swan Lake for her loved one as a confession of love. Hearing that story, I had been deeply envious and told Julian about it, intending to dance a piece for him. But as I was about to start, he stopped me. Tonight was the first time I had ever danced for someone specifically for him. Waking up around 7 a.m., I checked my phone and saw Julian had called me over a dozen times during the night and sent as many messages on WeChat asking where I was if I had gotten home safely. I thought about it, then ignored him, scrolling through my social media instead. It turned out Caleb had taken a picture of me dancing by the lake last night and posted it on his social media in the middle of the night. His caption read, "The moonlight is beautiful tonight." I commented, "Next time take a better photo of me." He replied instantly, "Your wish is my command, my Odette," followed by a heart emoji. I couldn't help but smile again. Just then Julian's call came through. I let my smile fade and answered. His first words were an accusation. "Yesterday you didn't even have time to say a few words to me. Were you rushing off just to dance for him?" His voice was angry and tinged with fatigue, but what did that matter? I had plans with Caleb. Besides, even if it wasn't him, I wouldn't have been late. I didn't know if Julian was ever punctual for others, but whenever we had plans in the past, I was always the one waiting, sometimes in vain. Like the first time Caleb saw me, waiting downstairs from Julian's dorm, returning home tired and disappointed with the thermos still full. "Why Swan Lake?" Julian asked. "Because he's my boyfriend." This wasn't the first time I had given him this answer, but he never seemed to truly believe it. "Julian, I truly loved you before. I spent my entire youth chasing after you, but I truly don't love you anymore. Alara, I regret it. Dance Swan Lake for me. If you want to see me dance Swan Lake, check our dance troupe schedule. And remember to buy your tickets in advance." Silence on the other end of the line. After a moment, speaking as a friend I had known for a long time, I added, "Julian, find someone and love her properly." Today, our dance troupe was performing Swan Lake. After the show, the manager smiled broadly. "Alara, your second act, the lake meeting scene, was the best you've danced since you joined us. Your expression was perfect, enough to mesmerize everyone in the audience." I chuckled softly. "You're exaggerating, manager." Caleb's voice came from behind me. "Not at all exaggerated. My Odette is the best." I turned around to find myself facing a bouquet of red roses. "What made you think of buying flowers today?" My lips curved slightly. I was genuinely happy to receive flowers. My vase at home only held 2 lucky bamboo stalks. The roses could keep them company for a few days. "I just wanted to," Caleb said, his voice incredibly sincere. "I wish I could give you all the beautiful things in the world." He said this with such conviction, but then his eyes flickered away, slightly as if embarrassed. I paused, puzzled, until I saw Julian standing outside the theater entrance, holding a bouquet of pink roses. Understanding dawned on me, and I gave Caleb a knowing look. Caleb cleared his throat awkwardly. "My red roses are nicer than his pink ones," he mumbled. I shook my head, amused, but my eyes lingered on the red roses in my arms. Julian walked towards us, bouquet in hand. He looked at me and said, "Your dance today was beautiful. Congratulations on a successful performance." I gestured towards the flowers in my arms, making no move to take his. One bouquet of roses, regardless of color, was enough. Julian looked at me intently, his gaze focused and serious. He was capable of looking at me with such intensity after all, but there wasn't a flicker of doubt or hesitation in my heart. Lila walked past us, scoffing dismissively, not pausing as she went towards a stranger, kissed him intimately, and got into his car, driving away without a backward glance. After getting into Caleb's car, I saw Julian still standing where he was in the rearview mirror, watching us without moving. His hair and suit were perfectly neat, and the pink roses in his hand were vibrant, but somehow they made him look even more lonely. Caleb suddenly asked, "I'm thinking of changing all the curtains, sheets, and duvet covers at home. Should I get red or pink?" I chuckled softly. "Any color you choose will be beautiful."